Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. With Shona Robertson about to do the budget early next week, the councils are up in arms. They know they're bankrupt. A quarter of them are raising what they call their red flag to say that unless they get major investment, major uplift in the amount of money they get from the central government, they will go into bankruptcy. This will be disastrous for everyone concerned. Not that it bothers Shona Robertson, of course. She couldn't care less. It's only people after all. It's not independence. That's the only thing in her mind that's in any way important. She's willing to pay with people's lives and people's misery. But we'll take a look at this to see why this is a major issue, what she's going to do about it, how bad it can get, and why no one really seems to be caring. No one in central government seems to be caring about what is going to happen to those people who are in absolute dire straits and who need the most help, because they're the ones going to get the least help. Let's have a look, see what's going on. Here goes. Now, none of us will be surprised at all about this. The SNP have overseen massive destruction of budgets over the years because they keep wasting money on pointless fantasies like, obviously the independence, but then all the other little things, baby boxes, complete failure and things like that. Nothing they do is ever effective, although it is often expensive. But here we go. We've got this year's budget coming up. They're $2 billion in the hole. They've told the councils there's no rise in council tax. The central government can't afford to cover it. So the councils can quite literally just go, actually, screw you, and put the council tax up anyway. That'll make Humza Yousaf look like a completely incompetent, powerless fool. No problem. I've got no problem believing that. But then, if it doesn't happen, then services will be cut. And not just the things that you think you could cut, swimming pools and leisure centres, but care. Vulnerable people care. Things like that. These things will cut. People will pay with their lives for Shona Robertson and her inability to balance a book. Anyway, Scottish Council budget red flag as nearly a quarter issue bankruptcy warning. Local authorities warn the public will see the impact of the funding struggles as the SNP is accused of having continually failed to address problems. Now, of course, they mentioned red flag in the title. So I have to put a picture of a red flag up in case you weren't worried. You didn't know what a red flag looked like. For heaven's sake. So it's written by children, isn't it? Anyway, Scottish councils have issued a red flag warning that finances are completely unsustainable. But we've known for some time, and we've seen the effects of this. Constant real-term cuts year on year on year. Now, when the central government, Westminster, give the SNP millions to give to the councils, and then the SNP don't give it to the councils, what do you expect? Business rates relief, that never went to the businesses. Agricultural money never went to the agricultural concerns. Money for swimming pools never went to the swimming pools. What on earth are the SNP doing with these billions that they're given, which has somehow evaporated? I seriously think it's been salted away in foreign bank accounts, ready for when the whole regime disbands and falls apart, and the Third Reich break up and flee to countries that don't have extradition policies to live sitting on a beach earning 10% a year on whatever billions that they've got hidden. Honestly, it is absolutely the Third Reich, isn't it? Anyway, new data from local government, the Local Government Information Unit, reading is hard and I apologise, reveals that nearly a quarter of all Scottish councils fear they will not be able to balance their budgets in the 24-25 financial year, and they blame the SNP's council tax freeze for only adding to that turmoil. Around 97% said they'd be increasing fees and charges, 89% that they would be spending reserves, and 76% believe these cuts will be evident to the public, with around 2/3 of the respondents cutting spending on education, parks, leisure and business support. Now, when you're cutting costs on education, you'll be reducing the number of teachers, and then on top of that, you've got Gilruth, we did the story yesterday, Gilruth suggesting that she would then cut the education benefit that they get, the education supplement, even further. It's a triple whammy. It's a triple whammy of go fuck yourself, basically, from the SNP government. And yet, strangely, 35 million has been reserved exclusively for foreign embassies. They are increasing the budget for Jamie Hebbon's Independence Department. Things that do not ever need to be spent, because firstly, independence is never going to happen, and secondly, these embassies are just make work for their chums. They can pay people £100,000 a year to sit in a nice city on their arse doing sweet FA at the public expense. Meanwhile, you try and get your kids educated, try and get granny some care or something. Isn't going to happen, is it? The Scottish Conservative MSP Liz Smith said, "This is a predictable consequence of years of SNP mismanagement and massive underfunding. Years of it. It's every year on year, constant real term reduction. They seem to think that money grows on trees or something, and it is. But they've had billions. What have they done with it? Billions they've had, and they've never spent. It's got to be fraud on a massive, massive scale. The corruption, the conspiracy, it is. These people need to be all arrested, all at once, in one go, one fell swoop. Arrest every single one of them, put them all into individual rooms and question them, and get the forensic auditors in to find the money, and then lock them up for 20, 30, 40 years for the amount of thievery and corruption going on in this government." The survey collects the viewpoints of chief executives, council leaders and council officers, and found that 75% of Scotland's 32 local authorities provided a response, and the survey was released about a week after local government organisation COSLA warned of a risk of bankruptcy for councils. And of course, once you get one go, then the others think, well, if they've gone, we'll go, bang. And if a quarter of all councils go, how's that going to look? Shona Robertson will not know what to do because she can't possibly deal with it. With an IQ so low, she cannot foresee problems. She literally is not intelligent enough to be in that role. It's going to crash and burn because you're putting an absolute knobhead into this role. Someone who lacks the intelligence to tie her own shoelaces, and yet you're expecting her to come up with and work miracles. How about employing people who've got a brain, who aren't room temperature IQ, who aren't incompetent? That'd make a change, wouldn't it? Jonathan Carwest, Chief Executive of LGRU Scotland, said councils in Scotland are raising a red flag that council finances are completely unsustainable, with nearly a quarter of councils warning they may be unable to fulfil their statutory duties. It is only a matter of time before we see the first council in Scotland declare effective bankruptcy. And at that moment, Holyrood needs to be disbanded. That's the moment of failure. That is the key fail point for Holyrood. Disband it, and let's have the Scotland office at Westminster take over the whole shenanigans and run it from there, and still have a full Westminster investigation. Get the Met in, not Scotland, not Police Scotland. Get the Met in, investigate everything. Get a team of forensic accountants in, look for everything, and then charge these people with massive conspiracy to defraud. This is Enron levels of defrauding people. Billions missing. Councils are pulling every lever available to them to balance their books. Scottish Government must work productively with councils to restore trust. Fact, never going to restore trust. Trust is gone and gone forever. They've got to remove ring fencing, identify revenue streams and reform core funding for councils to ensure residents, and particularly the most vulnerable in communities, are able to access the services they need and pay for. Halve the salaries of every senior manager in the council. Make sure nobody in the council is paid more than £50,000 a year. And if these chief executives don't like it, these chief executives can get off their asses and go and find a better job. Inflation, ring fencing, staff recruitment, the cost of living crisis and pressures linked to demographic change were all considered to be problems by more than 90% of respondents. Shadow Cabinet Secretary for Finance and Local Government, Ms Smith, said, "We now have reached the point where council finances are completely unsustainable, and almost a quarter of all of them say they are effectively bankrupt." there comes a point when they can't meet statutory requirements. They can cut. So they basically say, right, there's no maintenance on that. There's none of this. There's none of this. Nothing. This is what we've got to do by law. That's all we're doing. And if they can't pay for that, they go, right, we're bankrupt and done. And at that point, they have to hand it over to the government. Now, the government has still got the statutory obligations to perform these tasks. It must by law. Or the minister can personally be sued. This is a great thing. So these things will happen. They won't allow that. So they will have to do it. Seeing this, all the other councils just go, bang, we'll do it. And hand the whole shenanigans over to the SNP. And who's running the finances? Shona Robinson? Oh, that'll be fun. She'll sit there, she'll put her head in her hand and go, I don't know what I'm doing. But then, to be honest, she's like that when it comes to knitting. Woman is a moron. And this, of course, is what happens when you let morons make decisions. A Scottish Government spokesman said Scotland is facing the most challenging budget settlement since devolution. Oh, they're trying to bless... Oh, look at the way... This budget settlement since devolution. They're trying to blame Westminster, even though Westminster's given them $3 billion that they've not spent. How about, instead of blaming Westminster, you blame yourselves? Why are you spending money on foreign embassies? Why are you spending $8 million a month on spin doctors? There's lots of ways of saving money. It doesn't involve you lot enriching yourselves, feathering your own nests, growing fat at public expense, and just generally being low-life, sleazy, thieving bastards. Don't blame Westminster. Blame the SNP. They're the thieves. They're the corrupt ones. They're the ones destroying everything with their dirty, grubby, shitty little ways. I'm done and I'm coming up. It's typical, isn't it? Oh, let's blame Westminster because it was a terrible thing. Oh, yeah. Let's have a look at how much money Westminster gave you. And where did you spend it? You can't say, can you? No, because you've salted it away. You've thieved it. The SNP is little more than a criminal organisation. Money goes missing. Nobody's accountable. They protect everyone. They're a little cabal of perversions, predators, peds. Just disgusting bunch. They want to kill and damage everything. They want to leave a scorched earth policy. They know they're done. They know there's no room back. So if they can cause as much damage now as they possibly can, it makes it so much harder for whoever comes after them to try and put it right. And that's the deliberate policy. And that's what they're doing. Meanwhile, they, of course, are salting all this money away, foreign accounts, and then they'll all be leaving for countries with no extradition policy. Because they don't ever want to see the inside of a jail cell, which is where most of them belong. Thank you very much for watching. Do keep safe, do keep well. I will speak to you later. Bye.